Hi guys, and welcome back to How to Be. This is a solo series where I talk to you and I share advice from my personal experience on how to grow into a more confident, fulfilled, self-loved and secure you. And this week I'm going to tell you all about how to be secure. So tips, advice, examples, things that you can be doing to feel way more secure than you are now. So yeah, before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel. I really want to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube in the next couple of months. So please hit subscribe and please comment, because I feel like we need to start a conversation on this. And we're all on a journey of growth and self-loving, and there's so much out there telling us at the minute how to be more mindful, how to love ourselves more, how to be more confident, and I feel like it gets overwhelming. So I've done all of the work of filtering all of that shite for you, and I condense it all down into easy, simple, non-comprehensive steps for you guys to follow so that you can feel better about yourself every single day. So, insecurity. I feel like this is so interesting, and I feel like it's so interesting because a lot of people don't realise that they're insecure, or speaking from personal experience, I always knew I was insecure. I didn't realise just how insecure I was or what insecurity drives you to do. So I dug in, I went to therapy, as we all know, I did a fuck ton of self-work, and now I am secure, honey. There are points and there are times where I'm like, I go back in and I am a shell. But I would say 90% of the time, I'm secure, I'm feeling strong, I feel empowered, and I feel magnetic, and that's what we all want to do. So yeah, let's get into it. Step one is to realise you cannot get past something if you don't realise why you're there. You can't get out of a stagnant situation, or you can't get off the hamster wheel. Or have you ever felt like you're in a situation where you are like, how is so-and-so, and this is comparison, how is so-and-so getting to a certain point, or so-and-so's doing this in her career, or someone's started a social media account at the same time as me and they're on 1 million followers and I'm on 1,000. How? It's because they've changed a mindset and they've believed that they could do something, or they've wanted something, or they've shifted, or they've sought advice. You cannot get past a certain point if you don't have the realization and the honest conversation with yourself that you are stuck in an insecure mindset. An insecure mindset holds you back. An insecure mindset basically presses pause. I'm doing this because that's the pause symbol if you're watching on YouTube, but it does this on your life. It presses pause, a really gorgeous little press of that pause button, and you're stuck there. And then you get into this headspace of being so angry at yourself, or if you are someone who doesn't have any self-awareness at all, 5-10 years can pass by and you think, shit, I have not done anything for the past 5-10 years of my life because I'm stuck in this insecure mindset, and you didn't realise it at the time. So you have to press pause, and you have to realise that you're in that you're in an insecure mindset and you're in a self-sabotage mode. An insecure mindset is basically a hold. It's got a hold over you. An insecure mindset is basically a fear mindset. So it's an inner voice telling you that you can't do something. You're not flexing that confidence muscle. You're not flexing the insecure muscle. We said it in the last How to Be solo series all about confidence, and I'll link it in the description and in the show notes if you're listening on podcast. But you can't build up the proof if, one, you don't have the realization, and if, two, you're not going around collecting evidence. You can't ever realize that you're in this insecure mindset. So if you are feeling like you are stagnant, that people are racing ahead of you, that you are getting frustrated, that you're wanting to date but you don't know where to start, or you don't know how to do it, or you are dating but you're always falling into the same situations, or you want to save money and you're really struggling because you keep dipping into your finances, or you are wanting a promotion at work and someone else keeps beating you to it, it's all because a lack of self-belief and an insecure mindset. It's holding you back. It's keeping you in the position that you're in. So what you need to do, and we'll explain it as we go throughout this episode, you need to get extremely crystal clear on what you want. Stop focusing on the things that you don't have. Write a list of everything that you do have, and then get super laser focus clear on what you want. You then work backwards from there on how to get to those points, and I'll tell you how to do that as we go throughout the episode and as we go throughout the steps, so stay tuned. Another good way to realise is, I did this, I'm speaking from my own personal experience here, but one of my friends, when I moved to Manchester, she's one of my best friends now, but her life was changing loads, and I was like, how the fuck is she doing this? I've known her for 2 years. My life, it has changed and it has progressed, but not at the pace that hers was, and I was probably a little bit jealous, but also I was like, how the fuck is she doing this? Like, how is she doing it? So I called her and I said, this is a situation, I feel like I'm stagnant. What have you done? Like, what are you changing? And she was like, my mind. I changed my mindset. And I was like, how? So we sat and we had a long conversation about it. She started going to therapy. She started writing things down. She started to let things go. And all of a sudden, she wasn't stuck in that insecure mindset because she started building evidence. And this is kind of how I kind of catapulted myself into a situation of moving forward and attracting things that I actually wanted and getting over those hurdles that were keeping me stagnant before. So you have to realize that the problem is you. This is so hard to admit, but the problem is you. So you have to realize that you're the only one who can change this. Step 2 is, we know I always have an observation step. So step 2 is stop. Nada. Do nothing. Sit and pause and do nothing. And I feel like the more we get into this, the more some people are really loving the pause bits, and some people are like, if you want to move forward, why do you stop? I honestly think we live in a world, we live in a society where everything moves so fast. How the fuck can you keep moving forward if you never get off of that rat race? The only way to move forward with yourself, in self-growth, in self-development, is to stop and get closer to yourself. Stop and sit with yourself. Why are you insecure? Where did it come from? Like, what is going on? Am I insecure, or am I just super fearful? Have I got a super screaming limiting belief inside of me? Am I comparing myself? What is it? So you need to stop, you need to journal, you need to get into your thoughts, you need to dig deep, which I'll go into in a second on how to do that. But you have to stop. A big benefit that comes from stopping is spend time with yourself. So watch movies, go for breakfast on your own, flex that self-solo love muscle, read books, start to figure out what you like and what you don't like. What you'll find is you are feeling insecure because you don't know yourself that well. And when you don't know yourself that well, you can't go into things being yourself. And when you don't go into things being yourself, you end up acting like somebody else. You come out of it and you're like, who the fuck was that in there? I've just been in a room in a meeting and I don't know who the fuck that was. You have to get so close to yourself. You have to know every little inch, every little reaction, every little thought and love and passion and desire. Learn what you're good at, learn what you're not. So much comes from just stopping and getting closer to yourself, and then you can carry on in the next steps being a more connected version of you. I did used to think the mind and you are two different things. I've actually put a lot of content out there about connecting the two, but I'm now starting to realise that once you pull them apart, you learn who your mind is, you learn who you are, you then start to slowly become whole again. Atomic kitten, sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. But you start to come together as one, and it is fucking refreshing when it happens, let me tell you. Step 3 is really an extension of step 2, in that you really need to spend time with yourself. You need to get comfortable and confident in who you are. And I don't mean just spending time alone. I think it's really important to do all of those things that I said in step 2 about spending time with yourself, taking yourself out for lunch, like figuring out what your favorite podcasts are, figuring out what your favorite movie is, figuring out what your favorite books are. We change over time. And I think I'm 32 now, and the me at 24 was very different to the me now. She liked different stuff. She wanted to do different things. She was a fucking people pleaser. Me now, I'm very self-empowered. I love myself so much. I know who I am. I know what I want. I know the types of things I'll put up with. I know the types of things I won't. I know where I'm going. I'm very laser focus driven, and that's all come through spending time with myself. But then also, once you spend time with yourself, and don't do what I did, I made the mistake of isolating myself so much because I got in my head so much that I just pulled myself apart. You can't do that. It's quite damaging, because then you forget how to be social and how to be yourself around other people. You start overthinking who you are in social situations. And so you have to have a balance of being social, but be selective with the people you're hanging out with. You need to spend time with people that you are completely comfortable with. You need to be able to be confident enough to open up to people and say, I'm feeling this type of way, whether it's a parent, a friend, a sibling, a cousin, an aunt, someone at work, someone at school, someone at college, someone at uni, anyone that you feel comfortable with, and really start to flex that conversation muscle and really start to flex being yourself. If you're in a situation where you don't feel like you should be yourself, you should not be in that situation. There is nothing worse than feeling like you can't open your mouth, or you can't do something, or you can't say a certain thing, or look a certain way, or sing a song if you want to do that. Like, there is nothing worse than being in a situation or an environment or a surrounding where you can't be you. It's not okay. The way that you build security is purely through spending time with yourself and being yourself around others. Think about it. And I'm saying this because a lot of what I've learned about mindfulness, and it's actually the reason I do this series, is because we are so bombarded by do this, be that, meditate, breathe, and I've said it a fucking 100 times on here. But if you think about it, the way that you know if you like someone, something, a guy, an activity, a sport, a podcast, a book, is by being around them, spending time with them, reading the book, or, you know, reading different types of books. If you spend time with the guy and you are like, the more I spend time with him, the more I don't like him, or the more I spend time with him, the more I know that I like this, or the more dates you go on, you learn, I like this about someone, I like this about someone, I don't really like that too much. So then you start to collect data and evidence about the type of guy that you want to be with. Same with friends. You can hang out with friends and you can really bond and gel with someone. It's so simple. Spending time with someone is the way that you know that you like them or not. The same principle goes when getting to know and like yourself. The more time you spend with yourself, the more you will know which parts of you like and which parts of you don't. The ones that you don't, you need to let go of, and you need to figure out why, and you need to start to build yourself into someone that you really like and you really love, because then in turn you go into situations feeling more secure, feeling more confident. Your energy is just like oozes and vibrant, and that's when you become magnetic, because you are someone that you love, and everybody wants to hang out with someone that loves themselves, not in an egotistical way, someone who's just confident and doesn't backtrack on everything they say and delivers on what they do and speaks with such purity and kindness. So much comes from just spending time with yourself. You start being more kind, you stop sweating the small stuff, you start to let go of things. And so being around yourself and taking yourself on dates and enjoying your own company in turn means that other people will enjoy your company more, and you know that because you've been spending time with yourself. It all makes so much sense. And so you just love yourself a bit more. And again, you're flexing that secure muscle all the time that you spend with yourself. So make sure that you are putting yourself first, that you're learning, and that your head is present and in the moment of when you are solo dating or when you are seeing friends that you really love and you really spend time with. Make sure you're not on your phone all the time, and make sure you are in the space and in the presence of what you're in, because then you're switched on, you're cognizant, and you are taking in proof and data and evidence that you're a fucking cool gal, and everyone deserves to feel like that, and everyone deserves to be secure. So spend time with yourself, look after yourself, learn the things that you like, learn the things that you don't, and build yourself into someone that you absolutely love. One good tip that I do for not completely isolating yourself, because I do think when you go through this self-growth journey, it's so easy to isolate yourself. I've done it a lot, and I've found it really difficult to get back into social situations. I'm there now and it's good, but I did find it hard for a couple of years. And I've seen the more people I speak to through the podcast, the more people that come to me and have conversations, I do see people isolating themselves, because I think late 20s, early 30s, you start to know who you are a bit more, and you start to realise if you're different from the people you went to school with, or you're different from your uni friends, or you're different from the people at work. You start to segregate and segment yourself from other people. And so one thing that I do now is I do a Sunday night ritual. I've said it before. I used to do it sporadically through the week. Now I do a Sunday night when I'm in the mood. If I'm not, I don't do it. I don't force myself to do it. Sunday night, complete switch off. I do skincare, because we know I'm a skincare girly. If you want tips on skincare, by the way, please ask me, because I get so many questions about it. I'm not gatekeeping, but yeah, I won't share it on here because it's not a skincare or beauty podcast anymore. But I do a skincare night, I do a body scrub, I have a bath, I do all the candles, set the romantic scene. And I look at the goals that I set myself for the year, and I don't put too much pressure on myself, but I do put things like, one of them is to spend time with friends and family more. I never used to see my family, and so what I do, if that week on a Sunday I feel like I miss my mum or I haven't seen anyone, I'll message her right then and say, what are you doing next weekend? I'm going to come home. Or I'll message a certain friend I haven't seen for a while, and I'll say, girls, I'm free this date, this date, this date, and this date. Anyone else free? Does anyone want to do dinner? Or what are you doing on Wednesday after work? Do you want to go for a walk? Or I'm gonna have fajita night on Thursday. Do you want to come down and I'll make dinner for you? It's your responsibility to keep track of your goals and make sure you are living in balance, because that's what we all want to do, right? And so I spend Sunday night to just reset on my goals. They're not massive, honestly. It's literally spend more time with friends, be more disciplined with money. What do I need to do to get more people to listen to the podcast? How do I grow the podcast? Like, do I need to look at my YouTube stats and see what people are liking and what people are not, and then learn from that the next week that I record an episode? So it's little baby steps every single day. I've stopped doing this jumping through hoops, or trying to jump through hoops, because jumping through hoops doesn't work. It means you're setting yourself up for failure down the line. So it's small growth, small baby steps, so that you are staying responsible for your own personal growth and your own goals, because otherwise you sat stagnant and you ain't going anywhere, honey. Step 4, don't know why I'm doing 2 hands today, but step 4 is get deep. Anyone who knows me, anyone who listens to the podcast, anyone who watches these videos on YouTube knows that every conversation I have turns into a bloody therapy session. And so you have to get deep. And if you want to get deep, you're in the right place. I will tell you how to do it. What you need to do to get deep when you are transitioning from an insecure person to a secure person is you need to look back in time. So there's so many ways you can do this. I sat the other night, and there's a trend on Instagram that's like, look at share a picture of you from when you're 21. That for me is 11 years ago, believe it or not. But I went back, and it was funnily the right at the top of my camera roll. So that must have been when I got an iPhone, maybe before, but anyway. And I looked back through all of the pictures. This took me about 3 hours. Every single photo, I looked back, times of my life, who I'd been with, who I was dating, who my friends were, where I was, where I travelled, my jobs. I've done so much, and I've been to so many places, and I've experienced so many different friendships and personalities and likes and dislikes and moods and versions of me in the past 11 years. And it was so interesting to look back. And I will share this with you because I've shared a lot about body weight or whatever, but I'm so glad and thankful that I did it, because I looked back and I actually felt sad at the end of it, and I thought, fuck, I have been so mean to myself for the past however many years. This has been my entire life. I always told myself that I was overweight, that I was unattractive, that I am too big, that I don't suit certain clothes, that I can't go on girls' holidays because I would always look the biggest in a bikini, that guys don't want to date me, that I'm not good enough to do this, that I'm embarrassing. All of this stuff that I've been telling myself. And I looked back at the photos the other night and I thought, you look gorgeous. You look gorgeous, you look beautiful, you are bright, you are intelligent, you have fucking shot through your career, you've been ambitious, you've been courageous, you've been confident, you've been ballsy, you've got an amazing bunch of friends, but also the person and the self-growth that I've done in the past 10 years is insane. The person that I am now versus the person that I was 10 years ago is ridiculous. And so anyone who is feeling a bit insecure or jaded by their past, I highly recommend going and doing that exercise and looking back at all of the photos that you've got from the past however many years, and just tell yourself the actual right narrative. We'll talk about narratives in a second, but it is so worthwhile. It shares a different perspective. And also what it's allowed me to do is when I'm talking to myself like that now, I can realise that actually, Chloe, it's in my head that this narrative comes from. All of this self-sabotage is in my head. I'm not overweight, I'm not good enough, I'm not ugly, I've got cool fashion sense, I like how I dress, I love my friends, I love my environment, I love my home, I love my city, I love my job. And so actually there's nothing for me to be moaning about, there's nothing for me to be self-sabotaging about, because I like who I am. So all of this, what we do and why you need to go back is what we do over the years without even realizing it is we collect evidence and data and data. I spoke about it loads in the last episode about confidence. We constantly collecting data that tells ourselves we're not good enough. And so when you are mindlessly doing that and you're not consciously thinking about where that data has come from, you all of a sudden just step into autopilot and you start self-sabotaging the fuck out of yourself, and it is soul destroying. It creates a narrative that's not even there. And I want to talk about narrative because I'll use me as an example, and I've used the body thing a lot throughout this podcast, but I was always told when I was younger that I was fat, that I was overweight. Why was my sister skinny? Why was I the biggest girl in the class? How would I ever get a boyfriend because I'm so big? Like, my siblings used to take the piss out of me. And at the time, it was fine because it was normal. But actually, I was a bit of a chub when I was at school, and that's okay. A lot of us were. Or we've had times in our lives where we gained a bit of weight. But that's not true anymore. So for 15 years or however long, I lost a lot of weight when I was 16, 17 maybe. So for 14, 15 years, I have been telling myself the same stories that I was telling myself when I was 15. I'm 32, I'm not the same person anymore. So it's ridiculous of me to be telling myself that I'm fat and I'm not good enough and no one's going to fancy me and no one's going to love me and no one wants to date me, because that is bullshit. I have fucking worked hard on myself to be secure, and I'm fine now because I recognise it. But if you don't, this is when you start to get into trouble, and this is when you hold yourself back because you're telling yourself a narrative that is true of a time period ago. What we also do with narratives is we exaggerate on them, and I'll tell you how to go back and look at this in a minute, but we exaggerate on a narrative because we overthink, so much so that we then build and create and write a story in our own heads that's actually not true. It's so exaggerated beyond belief, and we continue to tell ourselves this, but the story's actually not true. We've made it up. We've made the story up. And so you have to get real, and you have to get really honest with yourself, but look back and check the evidence of what you're telling yourself. That's the bottom line here, and that's where I'm trying to get to with this. If you're telling yourself all these things or traumas from the past, and be soft with yourself here, we've all been through trauma. Some big traumas, like I've been through 2 really big traumatic experiences in my life, and the big ones don't outweigh the little ones. Little things can happen, and they can still stay with you for a long and prolonged period of time, and they affect you. What you have to do is you have to go back and you have to revisit. It's painful. You have to go back and you have to revisit those traumas or those negative experiences, because you've got a new perspective now, whether it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Your mind has developed and you've grown and you've progressed. Unless you go back and visit them and you dig into the weeds of 1, what actually happened, 2, how did it make you feel, 3, what did you learn from it, 4, how has it affected you since, 5, how do you progress from it, until you go back and you revisit that, and do it when you're ready, because it's hard and it's deep. But until you go back and visit that, you can't move forward from it and you can't grow from it. And so you really have to go back and revisit the evidence and where that narrative has come from for the things that you're telling yourself today. Because once you go back, 1, you let go, and 2, you have a completely different understanding, and you give yourself grace for the way you acted back then, or the thoughts that were going through your mind, or actually a realization of how something is still affecting you 10 years on, for example. And so it's so important. It's bloody hard. So if anyone does want to do this and feels scared or feels anxious about it, please reach out, because it is difficult. I can either talk to you, I can help you. I'm not a therapist, but I've done this myself, so I can share friendly advice. Or go to a therapist, and again, I can send some links of people that I've spoken to or resources that I've used in the past that I found really helpful. But go back and revisit them, because I promise you, so much will come from going back. It can be even something small, like you had an argument with your sister that got quite deep 5 years ago, and although you've got a good relationship and you're friends and you're really close now, you never actually had a conversation about it. So it's, how do you go back and address that, but with her, and speak to her about it? Or it could be something completely different, a guy that treated you in a really bad way. Don't always go back and talk to them, of course, but go back and revisit it and revisit the pain, because unless you dig underneath the pain to let it out, it's always going to be there, and it's always going to keep you stagnant. So this is the most important step of this episode, is to go back and rehash the past. Not so that you can stay there, absolutely not, but so that you can move on from it. Some people don't hold on to the past, so if you don't, that's absolutely fine, but a lot of us do without even realising. So go back, revisit that trauma, get into the weeds, so that you can move on. Step number 5 is challenge your negative thoughts and watch how you speak to yourself. The hardest thing, or the thing that I've definitely found the hardest, is watching how I'm speaking to myself and the language that I use when I am communicating to myself. We all communicate. Did anyone think, actually, when you were younger, like when you were 10 or 15, does everyone else have these conversations in their head all day long? Yes, we do. We all do. So let's all start talking about it, because it's actually quite funny, some of the things you tell yourself. But you have to, and again, step 4, you've gone back and you've revisited all of the evidence. In step 5, you'll understand why you're telling yourself these negative thoughts or these negative words, or the way that you're talking to yourself in a self-sabotaging manner. You have to challenge them, and the way to do that is you journal about them, you write about them, you go back and revisit, like I just said, and you understand where they're coming from. A lot of it is external sources of what you're telling yourself. Or remember now that we live in a world of social media where you are so exposed to everything that everyone's doing. And let's just remember that 90% of it's not real. It's all fake as fuck. So you have to segment what's real and what's not. And if you're seeing things on social media that's damaging, block, delete, hide, mute, whatever you've got to do. But if you're seeing someone or something, or images of girls, or your feed is full of, I have nothing against influencers, but influencer styly stuff, and it's making you feel bad, that's not on them, that's on you. That's on you to get rid of it and remove it from your life. And so you have to firstly check your surroundings, but also the narrative that we tell ourselves. A lot of it is external. If you are comparing yourself, why are you comparing yourself? That's because you're feeling insecure. So you have to, again, flex the secure muscle, and you have to write down, journal, figure out why it's making you feel insecure. Is it because you tell yourself that you want to go to the gym, but you're not going to the gym, and then therefore you're not feeling good about yourself? You have to go back and revisit, why are you going to the gym? Why are you telling yourself you need to be going to the gym? Is it because you're seeing it all over your social media? Or is it because you think you need to go, because we're all in this mindset now of gym 5 days a week and everyone talks about it, and it's subconscious. You see ads about it, people are talking about it at work. One of your brothers is running a marathon, for example, and you are constantly getting fed it, and as a result you think you need to be going to the gym. You don't. If you don't enjoy the gym, you don't need to go. There are so many different ways of moving and working out, and classes or walks or exploring. Figure out another way to move your body if you're not wanting to do that, because all you do is end up telling yourself that you're worse than other people, that you're not good enough, that you can't do it, that you have lack of discipline. It's not all of that. It's because you don't enjoy the thing that you're telling yourself to do. So it's a narrative. And again, that spirals into a mindset of negative thoughts and self-sabotage. So if you are in that space, you need to press pause. We know I'm a fan of pausing and stopping, but you need to figure out why you're doing it. And then the second part of that is watching your self-talk. And I find this so hard. Sometimes I think back on a day and I think, God, I've told myself this. I've had a conversation with someone and I've worried about it all day because I said something that might have upset them, or I told myself I look like this, or I got changed 3 times this morning before work, or I put my makeup on and the second I put it on I told myself I look shit, or I wore something and I was like, oh, I don't suit this, or like walked a certain way, or why did I look at someone funny? And you do it all day long, and because we do it all day long, it's honestly, try and do it, it's so hard. But you have to first realize when you're talking to yourself bad, and 2, try and catch yourself all the time. Like, visualize a net sweeping up all of your negative thoughts and all of your self-sabotage moments, and try and rid of them. But you have to try and replace them with positive stuff. So when you notice yourself that you've put your makeup on and you're like, oh girl, you do not look good today, you have to be like, no. I'm not a makeup artist, I'm not an MUA, I'm going to work in an office all day where no one gives 2 flying shits what my makeup looks like. My makeup's fine, it's how I like it, and that's good enough for me. And then you need to move on with your day. Or you need to smile at yourself and be like, you're cute today. Just little things that you implement into your day so that you stop talking shit about yourself, forgetting it ain't cool, and start being nice and kind and polite to yourself. Step 6, this is probably my favourite step from this episode. It is listen when people give you compliments. I cannot tell you the realisation I had when someone told me this. I was like, fuck, that is so powerful, but so simple. Again, we love a simple approach to mindset. But I basically had a conversation with the guy who had lost quite a bit of weight. And I said to him, I've been on a similar journey to you in terms of your weight. Lost loads of weight ever since. It's been up, down, up, down, up, down. And it's like this yo-yo effect of trying to keep it in check and feeling good about yourself. How do you not separate who you were then to who you are now? How do you do that? And he was like, you have to listen when people give you compliments. You have to listen when someone tells you that you look good, that you are doing a good job, that you are performing, that you did something really, really good at work, that you're a good friend, when someone says thank you. And so I've implemented that into my life. And honestly, it makes such a difference. It's a weird thing that we believe what other people say about us more than what we say about ourselves, but it's true. And I am a big advocate of, if something's working, keep doing it. And so it's amazing how many people give you compliments and you don't even realise. And what you need to do when someone gives you a compliment, you look nice today, your hair looks good like that. How is your skin so good? How are you so efficient at work? How have you moved to loads of different cities? How did you get to where you are in your career? You have to acknowledge what they're saying, say thank you, and then take that information in and soak it up like a motherfucking sponge. You have to, because that is hard evidence that someone has gone out of their way and saying to you, you've done a fucking good job. And there is no better feeling and there's no better confidence boost or secure boost than someone saying how good you are. So take it, listen to it, give thanks, absorb it into your mind, body, bloodstream and soul, and live being that person who is good at listening, who did a good job, who looks really fucking hot today, who's got gorgeous hair, who's got amazing skin, who's doing really well in the career, who helped someone out, who was kind, who had someone's back. Get it? You're collecting evidence that you are good, and that's what we want to do to become more secure. Step 7. Now this is something that I have struggled with a little bit, and it is put your own needs first. And the reason I've struggled with this is because I've often worried, like, am I boosting or driving or fulfilling my own ego when I'm putting myself first? So when I'm putting my own needs first, it's really hard to get a balance right. I've been someone who's been a people pleaser for a long time, and I can still be. We're all, none of us are perfect. But I worry that sometimes if I put my own needs first, am I then diminishing or demoralizing someone else's needs? So it's, if you are like me and you were a bit of a people pleaser, or you just like to make people feel good, or you want people's acceptance, which, look, we all do, let's be honest. It's really hard to get the balance right when putting yourself first of, do I put them first or do I put me first? And it's taken me a minute to figure it out, but I have figured it out. And you can't help someone fill their cup, or you can't fill somebody else's cup if you don't fill your own first. And so by putting yourself first, I mean, have you taken care of yourself this morning? Have you got up and got dressed and put makeup on? And I say this because, not to speak of COVID and lockdown, it was 2 years ago, RIP lockdown, but we, and I personally, and I know a lot of my friends have done the same thing, I've got into such a habit and routine of not wearing makeup for work, putting a tracksuit on for work. Comfort is best. I haven't got out of that routine. And I know, like, tracksuits and athleisure and like cozies are trending and they're fashionable, and it's fine to wear tracksuits and stuff, but I just feel like I haven't been putting myself together as well as I used to do pre-COVID. I've been wearing clothes, not styling clothes. And so I have been making a conscious effort to, and this is an example of putting myself first, of putting makeup on, making sure I look presentable, do I like my outfit, doing my hair properly, not leaving it a day too long because it's greasy. And at times it happens, right? But it's little things that you implement into your day. For example, the podcast. Have I made sure all of my podcast jobs are done before I go out and help somebody else? Because I don't have the fucking time if my podcast stuff is not done. Do you know what I mean? And so it's that, and it's not always putting other people first. You have to make sure you're filling your cup. Remember, we spoke way earlier on in the episode about balance and living more in balance. That Sunday night ritual, it is about making sure you've got time for you. You've got time for social stuff, you've got time for work, you've got time for hobbies, you've got time for gym, fitness, lifestyle, all of this stuff, cooking, whatever you want to do, like whatever you enjoy doing. That Sunday night, it's not to live in a routine. I do not live in a routine. Anyone who knows me, I'm not chaos, but I'm not routined at all. But it allows time for you to be able to look at your week and fit everything in. I said it in previous episodes, Monday to Friday for me is now work only. Saturdays is social day, Sunday is a podcast day, and it doesn't always fall into that. Last week I didn't do anything on the podcast, but I was prepped before then, so it was okay. And so that allows me, that mindset allows time for every little thing in my life to have its own time and its own space, so that I'm not spending time with my friends thinking, shit, I don't have any podcast episodes to go out this week and I don't know what to do. I've got no social media and everyone's going to stop listening. That doesn't happen because I've got time and I've factored in a balance that works for me. So you have to make sure that your cup is so full, that you are loved, that you are content, that you are fulfilled, that you are organized, that you are hassle-free in your head, that you're not overthinking, that you are so enriched with the things that you've done, with the person that you are, with the time that you've spent with and on yourself. So then that when you are with other people, or you are helping people out, or you are with friends, or you are at work, your time is solely focused on them, and you become so much more enriched and you give so much more value, and you're lighter when you move around. And so really focus and put energy and emphasis on putting yourself first and loving yourself first. And as a result, you'll become more secure because you're so confident and fulfilled in the person that you are, because you filled your cup, that energy and that presence that you have adds more to people's lives, rather than being stressed all the time because you haven't fulfilled your own needs and you're running around like a headless chicken fulfilling everyone else's. So that was my 7 steps to becoming a more secure you. Remember that a lot of this is my journey, and it's how I've done it, and it's how I've become so much more secure than I ever was. It's how I've stepped out of being insecure and being a shadow of myself, because it's not fun to live like that. And so all of this stuff is experienced from my own experience that I would love for you guys to put into yours. Test it, try it, learn from it, grow from it, but more importantly, let me know what you think, and let me know what kind of how to be topics you want to hear next, because I would love to share more value and knowledge with you guys. But yeah, tune in next week. There will be another episode. It will be a guest episode. It's a very good one. So yeah, tune in next week, and please, 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 if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube or follow on wherever you listen to your podcasts, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.